I'm sure that many things will happen as a result of the march. Certainly the people who attended will go back to their communities and work with bold and grim determination to get their congressmen to support strong, meaningful civil rights legislation. And I'm sure as a result of the things that
the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. described his goals for the March on Washington in 1963, and 57 years later, there is still discrimination and injustice in this country. All you have to do is look at the outcomes. In this hour-long special, Race for Justice, we are taking a deeper look at racism and inequality in America as it exists today. And again, all you have to do is take a look at the numbers. African Americans make up 38% of federal prisoners, but only 13% of the U.S. population. African Americans have a median household income of about $41,000, and that is $22,000 less than the national median. And 16.7% of African Americans were unemployed in April, 2 percentage points above that month's national jobless rate. There are big discrepancies here, Anthony.
Our elected leaders are also not representative of the population, Tony. Just 153 African Americans have served in the House of Representatives since 1789, and only 10 in the U.S. Senate. And of course, we've only had one black president.
The numbers tell quite a story there, gentlemen. Outrage and protest over the death of George Floyd in police custody are the latest chapter of a long struggle by black Americans. The fight for racial justice and equality embodied by the civil rights movement spans the entire history of our country. So we spoke with a number of civil rights activists from different generations to get their perspectives on what we're all witnessing today.
We're seeing the same case over and over. Like, we're marching for George Floyd today, but who are we marching for tomorrow?
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
Right now in 2020, we're still existing in a world, in a space, especially here in America, where racism and anti-blackness is deeply rooted in our everyday system.
I'm really sad for the family of George Floyd. They killed him like a dog in the street. I'm frustrated we can't get justice. I'm emotional because I don't know what I will tell my little black children that I'm raising about how to go out and operate in this world.
The issues we face today are present but not permanent. The violence of the police, present, not permanent. But there are more and more people who realize that the system as it's currently designed is designed. People made this up. And because people made it up, we can make something better.
At present, we are in the midst of a protest.
When I was a freshman in school in Atlanta, and Dr. King was assassinated, I did take to the street violently, very violently. I was seeking to do damage, I was seeking to hurt, but I realized that that was not really going to change anything. So when I see the young black men and women out there, I know a little bit about how they feel.
I myself was 11 years old when Trayvon Martin was murdered. After that, I also lived through watching Ferguson. I am excited and hopeful because I see people out in the streets.
I can't breathe!
They are the grandchildren of the civil rights movement, and I cannot tell you how proud I am of them because for far too long, their voices were not heard. It brought it back to the days that I was beat bad by police officers. Civil rights leaders encouraged me to go in law enforcement, and I turned my pain into purpose.
For every movement, there's always been young people who are leading the way.
What's his name?
And what I hope will be different this time is that they actually listen to young people. I think Generation Z has had enough.
I'm a child of the civil rights movement. My father was shot February 8, 1968 in the Orangeburg Massacre. This is like 1918 meets 1968. You have a great pandemic, and you have a country that is teetering on edge, but we have to work together to overcome. And I'm hopeful that we can have a sense of understanding.
I know it was hope that carried me when I was in the street for 400 days in St. Louis in 2014. But I know that we are fighting for a world that we believe in, but we have not yet seen. I'm always telling a story about a world that I know is true, but I have not been to.
We took Dr. King's dream and as a blueprint and began to build. If you really want to see a revolution start, You don't have to take a gun and face. You stay on the moral high ground, and the violence won't be yours, it'll be from the other side. That's the way it was in civil rights. That's the way it was before. And I think if we hold that moral high ground, we will win.
Boy, I get goosebumps looking at those images. Martin Luther King had just turned 39 when he was assassinated. You know, Congressman Lewis, who was with us yesterday, was 23. So I marvel at the ages of these kids. They're not kids; they're young adults who are getting younger and younger. Congressman Lewis and both Barack Obama have said what gives him hope is looking at these young faces who are marching peacefully in the streets for change. Tony?
Yeah. And you're reminded of that phrase, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You know, racism has taken a different form today. We refer to the system, and what people mean is that the outcomes. We are in a society where white people are flourishing and black people are not, and the question you have to ask yourself is why, and it's a question we'll be asking throughout this hour.